Outland is a 1981 film directed and written by Peter Hyams, and we have a brilliant cast, including Sean Connery, Peter Boyle, Francis Sternhagen, we have John Ratzenberger, and for me, it was because of Ratzenberger that I became aware of this. I read the description and thought, that doesn't sound like my kind of thing. And I can now conclude that it's not my kind of thing. It's not one of those films where I went into it thinking I wouldn't enjoy it, but ultimately ended up liking it. But nevertheless, it is still a good film. I have a lot of things about it that I can praise, but just in terms of personal preference, while I enjoyed bits of it, I didn't particularly care for it, but it's nothing against the film. It was also an interesting experience for me in one regard because of Peter Boyle. I'm big Everybody Loves Raymond fan. I've seen Peter Boyle in, I think, a couple of other things, but I think this is the earliest Peter Boyle film that I've seen. Don't quote me on that, but I think it is. And it took me a second to recognise him because he looks so different to what I'm used to. But every now and then he'd make a facial expression and I just kind of went, yeah, that's Peter Boyle. So although I didn't enjoy the film, the cast definitely was great. The performances were brilliant and I certainly enjoyed Peter Boyle in this. The film is set on a Jupiter moon, and this is about Federal Marshal William O'Neill, who is caught up in some potentially criminal activity. I don't want to go into too much detail about that. IMDb does give a little bit more information than that, so if you do want some more going into it, IMDb does have a little bit more, but I don't want to go into too much more detail just in case you don't want to know exactly what's happening. But things are established pretty quickly. It's not that it takes half of the film to establish the gritty part of the story. In fact, in the opening scene, it gets quite dramatic very quickly. And the story itself, I think, is well written. The pacing is really good. There are several things happening that characters, mostly William O'Neill, have to contend with. And we have quite a variety of locations as well. When I read the description that it was set on this military facility on a moon, I thought, okay, are we going to have quite a small set? Are we going to have a lot of rooms to play with? I wasn't really sure what to expect. And I think the set designs are absolutely fantastic. No problems there at all. It never felt stale. I sound like I really enjoyed it. I didn't. I really didn't. But I guess I can view a lot of the positive things, even if the story itself just wasn't the most engaging for me. The special effects are really good, particularly for the time that this was released. The costumes look good. The performances are great. So all things considered, Outland is ticking all of the right boxes. I think for me it's just a case of I'm not a fan of sci-fi, which I find really bizarre because I grew up obsessed, painfully obsessed, with Doctor Who from Christmas Day 2005. It was an instant obsession to about 20... Oh gosh, I'm not sure actually. I think my obsession started to fizzle out a bit after Capaldi. Well, I'd say probably after David Tennant left, it started to gradually decline a little bit for me. But the obsession, not the quality of the show. But nevertheless, the point there is that despite the fact that I spent all of my teenage years obsessed with a sci-fi show, when it comes to films, some of them are okay, but it's not a genre towards which I generally gravitate, but I will always go in with an open mind. And unfortunately on this occasion, it just didn't work well for me, but it's absolutely nothing against the film. It ticks all of the right boxes. It's a very strong narrative. The performances are great. The characters are well written. The special effects are good. The set designs are good. Music and sound effects great. Honestly, Outland seems like a pretty decent film. And as I said, I did really enjoy watching Peter Boyle in this because it was just nice to get to see him performing a different character to Frank Barone. As I said, I have seen him in a few other things, but not a tremendous amount. And I'd love to explore more, so if you have any recommendations for any Peter Boyle films, please feel free to let me know. And certainly I can recommend Outland. If, like me, though, you're not really into sci-fi, you might not love it, but there are certainly a lot of positives. And ultimately, while it wasn't an amazing experience for me, I can't fault it. And if it sounds like a film that might appeal to you, then I'd say Outland is probably worth checking out.